Okay, so welcome. This video is on slope-intercept form of a line, the second part of that, and we are on unit 4.2c, and we want to describe the slopes of these lines here on number 1, and then find them. So when they just say describe the slope of the line, they're asking for whether the line is a slope that's negative or positive, or maybe 0 or undefined. And then they want you to find the slope. So would you say this is a negative slope or a positive slope? I would say it's going down and to the right. So whenever we go down and towards the right, like we're reading a book, so I would think about it this way. Give me 1 second, actually. I see. I've lost that. All right, so I can't really show you, I can't use my hand here, so I have to use this foam finger. So what I'm going to show you is we're going to go from the left to the right like we're reading a book. So if we're going like we're reading a book, sorry that this is ugly like this, it's going up or down. Are we going down or up as we're reading this book? Down. So as we're going like we're reading a book from left to right, just like we're following the words on the page, describe the slope of the line, or we're on a sing-along and we're bouncing the, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Karaoke? Yeah. As we're going down, we know that the slope is negative. So we can say that this has a negative slope, okay? So negative slope. That's good. And then we want to actually find the slope. So we want to do rise over run. So from the left to the right, it's falling, it's going down. So I would say the rise is -2. And then we want to put that over the run. So the run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's that. And I'm using arrows here. So that's the slope of the line. So what I'd like you to do is think about this next one, pause the video, and try to describe the slope of the line, positive, negative, 0, undefined, and then actually find the slope of the line using rise over run. Okay, so pause the video and give that a try. All right, so it looks like we're okay here. Just make sure you reduce your slope. So look at your fraction. If you have a fraction for your slope, make sure you reduce it. And it looks like I think this slope is, I believe it's 2/3. Positive, right? It's a positive slope. So let's keep going. Let's go to the next one, which is I believe number 2. These are my special numbers, okay? So when you see the number that's circled weirdly like that, and it kind of is unique, that's how you know what I'm talking about. So I'm saying number 2. And these points lie on a line. How could you find the slope of the line from this table? So what is slope? I mean, we know slope is rise over run, for sure. So we can talk about a lot of things as slope. Slope is, well, yeah, it's rise over run. Rise over run. What else is slope? Yes?
Well, I know how to get the graph.
Sure. How do you do it?
You just find the difference from each number to another number.
Right. So is it y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1? Is that another thing? So that's another way we can find slope. We know slope is this. We know slope is this. What's another way we talk about slope? Change in y in y over change in x. And what's another thing that we can call slope? I don't know that we've talked about a lot, but slope is a rate of change. A rate of change. Rate of change. So it's how fast or how slow something's going up or down. Those are all ways of saying slope. Every single one of those 4 boxes is saying, or really if you say slope, all 5 of those things mean the same thing. Slope is rise over run, slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, slope is change in y over change in x, and slope is rate of change. So now I want to look at change in y over change in x on one of these. Okay? So why don't we just do change in y. This is the symbol for change, the delta. It is a triangle. And this is a symbol for change in x, a delta. Oh, change in general. So what's the change in y? How much does y go up or down if we pick 2 of these? Why don't we just go from the first one to the second one? Did it go up or did it go down? Yes? Down 6. So I'm going to say the change in y is -6. How about the change in x? Go the same direction. What was the change in x? Anybody else? Change in x? +3. So we know the change in y over change in x is -6. divided by positive 3. What is negative 6 divided by positive 3? That's a slope of what? Is equal to negative 2. Okay? Right? Because it's a negative divided by positive. 6 divided by 3. So I want you to pause the video and try part B. Do change in y over change in x. Now I do want to let you know there might be a little bit of a trick up my sleeve on this one. But try to do change in y over change in x. Or you can do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to figure out the slope of this line. Pause the video and give that a try. All right, friends, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about this problem a little bit. So hopefully you've tried it, okay, you've done your best. But what I want to show you is that the change in y is a little weird here. The change in y from 2 to 2 is a change of 0. So the change in y is 0. And if we analyze the change in x and we go the same direction, the change in x is 2. So we have 0 divided by 2. But people always confuse 0 divided by 2 and 2 divided by 0. Or really 0 divided by anything. But you've got to think of 0 as what you have. And now you're dividing it amongst two people. So if you have nothing and you divide it amongst two people, how much do you have?
0.
How much does each person have? Nothing, right? So 0 divided by 2 is 0. I need you to remember, if you have nothing and you divide it amongst two people, you all have nothing. So this is 0. You cannot divide by 0. You can divide into 0, but you cannot divide by 0. If you divide by 0, it's going to be undefined. So this slope is 0. So slope is literally equal to 0. I'm going to literally write the word out. Slope is equal to 0.
Wait, did we say slope is undefined?
No, slope is undefined is if you have 2 divided by 0, because you can't divide by 0. So make sure, okay, and our listeners at home, this is important for you as well. You can't divide a number by 0. You can go ahead and ask your phone to divide something by 0 right now, you know. Ask Alexa or something. They will give you, they'll be pretty upset because you can't divide a number by 0. It's not possible. But you can divide 0 by a number. So 0 and undefined are not the same. They're actually kind of opposites of each other. So let's move on to part 3. And this is saying find the slope, intercept, find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph. Now, these two problems are going to be really crucially important. We're going to need a lot of practice with these. They just take some work, honestly. There's no real fancy way to say that. So what I want to do is I want to look at this first one, and I want to say which one of those numbers is the slope? Which number is the slope? And which one's the y-intercept? Yes?
The 3x is the same.
So we know the slope is the number that's with the x. It's actually not 3x. Commonly, people say it's 3x, but it's actually just 3. So the slope is always just the number right there, okay? You got that? With the x. When it's in y equals mx plus b, right? Now, you know if it's y equals mx plus b, what is the b? What is the y-intercept? Yes? Negative 4. So we know here that the y-intercept is equal to negative 4. Okay? So that's that. So now we look at the second problem. We ask ourselves, is it in the form? Is it, and I'm going to write this out, is it in y equals mx plus b? This is a pretty important question for you to ask yourself every time you're looking at a problem. Is this problem in y equals mx plus b? Is the y alone? Is the b over there next to, are there two things on the right? Is the y by itself? No. Not on the second one, right?
Oh.
On the second one, on part B, yeah? So forget about this guy for a second. Let's just get past this. Is it in y equals mx plus b? No. We must get it into y equals mx plus b. So follow me closely on this one, okay? It's pretty important that we understand this one. Let me see what I can do here. I want to help you out with this. All right, so to put things in y equals mx plus b, we need to get y alone. So here are going to be your steps. I want you to find a place to put these steps somewhere so that you can have them, because they're going to be pretty important. So steps for this are going to be, 1, I like to bubble the y. Okay, that's the first thing I like to do. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in purple, and I'm going to put a purple bubble around the y. I'm also going to include the sign that's with the y. I'm not just going to bubble the y itself. I'm going to include the sign that's with it. So that's in a bubble, okay? The next thing you want to do is get anything that's not in the bubble out of there. So obviously we know we have an equation with two sides, right? But anything that's not in the bubble has to go. So I would say anything not in the bubble, move it. Now, do we know how to move it? I mean, how do we actually move something that's not in the bubble? Well, we use algebra, right? What does algebra say if we want to get rid of that negative 5x? What do we do, yes? We add 5x to both sides. So if we want to get rid of negative 5x, we must add 5x to both sides, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add 5x to both sides. So this is not in the bubble. I'm going to add 5x. I'm going to add 5x. Gone, because it cancels out to 0. I'm going to rewrite my equation, which is negative y is equal to, I'm going to put the 5x in front because it looks more like mx plus b to me, right? It looks more of the form. And now I'm going to think about my third step. Third step is the y completely alone? And usually you're going to divide if not. So I'm going to ask myself, is y completely alone? If not, divide, usually divide, okay, and I don't want to say all the time, divide, I'm going to say it like this. So what I'm saying is, if not, get it alone, right? But I'm not saying you always have to divide, I'm just saying that like most of the time you're going to have to divide to do that. Does that make sense? Hopefully that's good. Okay, I'm trying to just, I would really like that word to be up. Oh, there it is, perfect. Okay. Is y completely alone? Can you answer that question for me, please?
No.
So, okay, who says yes and why? Who says no and why? So who wants to jump in? Hannah?
I say yes because it's on the other side of the equals.
Okay, I hear that. Lily?
I say no because there's a negative sign next to it.
Cool. And what do we think? Let's just take a quick vote. Yes and no. Okay, good. So we're kind of evenly divided, but a lot of people are saying, a little bit more are saying no. I agree. I want to underline this word completely because even a negative sign or a number or anything doesn't make it completely alone. We have to get rid of that negative sign, which is negative 1. How can we get rid of a negative 1? We can divide by negative 1. Now check it out, people. There's a couple things I haven't addressed as much as I should because you guys are learning this for maybe the first time, right? I want to say something right here. I want to just stop because I forgot to say this. Can these two things be added together?
No.
Why not? Yes? They're not like
They're not
terms. So I put them side by side because they couldn't be added together. I just want to make sure that we know that. Okay? Now when I'm dividing negative 1 on both sides, I have to divide negative 1 every single place. I have to divide everything by negative 1. I'm not dividing negative 1 twice on the right side. I'm just dividing it once, but I'm dividing it into everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if you want half of two different things, you have to take half of both things separately, right? So if you're dividing something by negative 1, you get to divide it everywhere. So now I can finally say that this is not that. So that's y is equal to, that's negative 5x plus 2. And we've done something really important. We've answered the question, is it in y equals mx plus b? And we can say yes now, right? And now I can ask you what the slope and the y-intercept are. Finally, yes?
What I did was,
Sure.
the y was negative and so was the negative 2. I just like made it a 2.
I understand. So you kind of were able to divide by negative 1 in your head to some degree, right? Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. You can change all the signs. That's the same as dividing by negative 1. So the slope of this equation is always going to be the number with the x. So the slope is negative 5, and the y-intercept is positive 2. And now we've done it. We've finished it, okay? Now this is a super important problem. I can't really stress it enough. It's super important. So I want to make sure you're feeling okay about it. So one important thing to remember that's in green is when we're dividing something on both sides, we have to divide everything. We can't just divide one thing. Let's say, for example, I'm going to give an example I gave in class. I was to give you half of what I own. That means I have to give you half of my paper clips and half of my pencils and half of my math books, and I have to give you half of everything. So when we're dividing something, we have to divide everything. That's pretty much a good place to stop. We're going to take it, we're going to pick it back up later. I will see you in the next video. I hope this made a lot of sense. Peace.